We got a lot coming up on the show today. A new task force looking to address violence and other community concerns along Edgewood Avenue. Let's talk about that. Democratic lawmakers in Texas are fleeing the state over redistricting. Americans are spending more time worrying about their finances, right? Like you and me. And students are heading back to school with a new state program helping some pursue a private education. All that coming up on The Take. Let's get it. Hello and welcome. I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines, and we look at the why and how stories are impacting you and your community. We invite the experts in to share their take on today's top stories as well, and we try to have a little bit of fun as we go along. Well, let's get right to our top story today. Atlanta City Council voted less than 24 hours ago to approve a new Edgewood Avenue task force. The move follows a weekend of gun violence in late July, where police responded to a dozen shootings. A mass shooting on Edgewood Avenue left one man dead and 10 other people injured. Here to talk with me more about it is City Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, who represents the Sweet Auburn District. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, last week we had you on. We talked a little bit about this new task force, and now it's been approved. Can you give us a little refresher on the goals of the task force?
Yeah, so it's a 9-member task force. The intention is for the report to be done at the end of the year. And this will be a combination of community members and neighborhood leaders, public safety in the city, and the mayor's office, so the administration at the table, businesses, as well as myself and some of my colleagues.
Yeah, you said business and community leaders along Edgewood Avenue have told us that it's not just gun violence here they're worried about other concerns as well. Have they expressed those concerns to you?
They have. So we are looking at things like illegal vending. We're looking at businesses to ensure that they have the proper licensing and their certificate of occupancies. We want to make sure that everyone is operating within the letter of the law. As you said, that doesn't just pertain to gun violence, that also pertains to everyday operations.
Yeah. What has made this such a hotbed for violence here lately?
Whenever we see extreme heat, we always know that causes an uptick. But I would also say, again, it's the access to guns. It's the fact that somebody could walk into a gun store and easily be approved for a weapon in less than 20 minutes, whereas if you wanted to go get a prescription or get an appointment with a doctor, it takes far much more time. So one of the biggest issues that we don't talk about, of course, is unregulated access to guns, but also it's an opportunity for us to come together as a community and look at ending violence in a holistic way, looking at underlying causes and how we help our youth understand how to cope with their emotions outside of immediately resorting to weapons.
Go into a little bit depth about what you think will take place with the task force that will help to make the difference here.
What it's going to do is it's going to make sure that we're not operating, again, in silos. A lot of people have been doing work on this corridor, and a lot of that work has been happening separately. So we're bringing everyone to the table. We're going to bring folks that are property owners who have been in this corridor for decades doing this work, religious leaders who have been also in this community talking about the beloved community, doing everything they can to eliminate violence. We're going to be asking the business associations to come to the table. Having the mayor in the room and his team is going to make a huge difference. And so the folks that we've put together have all been leading initiatives on their own. We're going to come together and you're going to see a lot more results happen a lot more quickly.
Give us a timeline on this. When do you expect to see some of the recommendations from the task force once they get together?
We expect to have everything completed by December with regular updates along the way.
And you got recommendations from the task force that is going to come to you, and then that's how things will work out? Like you'll kind of dispatch whatever is said or whatever is recommended?
Correct. We're going to take a look at what the community is suggesting, because we all need to acknowledge that the people on this corridor are experts on their own living conditions, so their expertise is vitally important. I think a lot of times when you see things like this occur, there's a lot of reactivity, and oftentimes it's the administrators that are trying to step in to create fast solutions. This is the opposite, in my opinion. Those administrators, those people, the operating arm of the city is coming to the table to hear what the community wants and seeing how we can best execute their vision in a way that's safe and legal. Yeah. So we're going to see a lot more, I think, a lot more solutions. I have a lot of hope for this, and I don't believe this will be a one-time thing. I think this will set the foundation for consistency across the board for many, many years to come.
So you think something like this could spread to other parts of our community as well?
My hope in doing anything in my district is that it is always scalable. That is always my intention.
Forecast a little bit for me when we look at this, maybe a year from now, 2 years from now. What do you hope things will look like by then?
What I hope you'll see is a clean, beautiful corridor with filled storefronts, a diversity of community, a mixed income community, with a neighborhood that people can walk to or bike to, whatever they need within 15 minutes. And we have a robust nightlife, as well as folks that can come to church on a Sunday morning and be proud of their community.
Yeah.
I believe that can be done.
Yeah. Have you talked to anybody in the community about what's been happening lately? Have you had a chance to talk to your constituents about it?
Every single day.
And what are they saying? What are their sentiments about this? Are they? I mean, I'm sure they're pleased about the task force, but what have they been talking to you specifically about?
I mean, they're frustrated. They're frustrated that they feel that, that the Sweet Auburn neighborhood, the only thing that we see about it on Edgewood Avenue is the negativity. There's a lot of positive things that occur. So they're happy about the task force. What they really, really want from this task force, in addition to support and safety, is just lifting them up again as the beloved community, as people that actually are responsible business owners that want to see this progress come, that want to be at the table, that want to welcome visitors and neighbors and seniors and worshipers alike. And so that is really what they want, and they want to be in the room for those decisions. So my goal is to really take in their plans, their opinions, what they want to see change, and make sure that we're executing that in the best way possible.
Got it. Liliana Bakhtiari, thanks so much for joining us today, and thanks for your insight.
Thanks for having me.
All right. All right, folks, we are looking at another day with we'll see the rain around the forecast area. It is going to be very, very hot. I mean, very, very wet around the forecast area for today. We're talking about 11Alive weather impact alert. And 75 degrees for the afternoon high temperature. Not going to see much in the way of sunshine. We'll be watching the temperatures start to heat up as we head through the weekend. Temperatures getting back up close to where we should be for this time of year. 87 degrees for Sunday and Monday. We should be near 90 for an afternoon high. So we'll continue to watch it for you, keep you updated as we go along. All right. Don't go anywhere, folks. We're back right after this. Welcome back to the show. Overnight, Texas Governor Greg Abbott called on state troopers to track down and arrest Democratic state lawmakers. They left a special session in the Lone Star State to avoid a vote on redistricting that could greatly impact the midterm elections. Joining us now is NBC's Jay Gray to talk more about what's going on. Talk to us, Jay, about what the redistricting vote is all about.
Yeah, Chesley, and it's basically a plan submitted by Republicans that could create 5 additional seats in the U.S. House here in D.C. So Texas House Democrats say the congressional redistricting map that, again, was created by Republicans take what have been Democratic strongholds, absorbs them into red districts, including downtown Austin, where the Capitol is and is one of the most liberal areas of the state, giving them the chance to win 5 more seats and really shore up what's a slim majority right now here in Washington. So that's something that they've been dealing with for quite some time. Probably works better when this is a little closer.
There you go. I see you. While you're putting your mic on, Jay, thank you so much. While you're putting your mic on, Jay, the governor says he'll do every measure legally to possibly force the Democrats back into the Capitol there in Austin. What could that include?
Yeah, well, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has already issued civil warrants and ordered Texas state troopers to find and arrest the missing Democrats. Understand, though, a civil warrant essentially cannot be enforced outside of Texas. The lawmakers can't be extradited, forced to return to the Capitol there in Austin. The governor's also floated the possibility of bribery charges, accusing House members of soliciting funds to pay $500 a day fines they're incurring by not showing up, also threatening to expel them and call new elections for their seats. Both of those options would face serious questions over legality, whether they'd hold up in a legal challenge. And so those aren't very likely. And so what we have is a standoff that just continues.
What are leaders in other blue states reacting to this? How are they reacting to it?
You know, it's interesting. In many blue states, what they're doing is starting to draw some redistricting maps of their own. We know they're looking at that in Illinois and California, as well as New York, and saying, okay, we'll change our districts in these predominantly blue states, open up some more opportunities to gain seats there to offset anything that's going to be done in Texas or any of the other red states. So what we're really seeing is the beginning of what's going to be a back and forth over how they will keep control or gain control of the U.S. House come the midterms, which, by the way, all of this unfolding, Chesley, we're still more than a year away from that midterm election.
Yeah, yeah. Did the move stop the vote at all?
Well, it depends on who you ask. Now, I've talked to some of the lawmakers there that have left. They say they've packed enough clothes to be gone for 3 weeks. Republicans are insisting they're not stopping this vote, they're just delaying it. But by law, a special session in Texas can't last longer than 30 days. That means this current session must end by August 19th. And one other quirk in Texas law, if those Democrats do come back to the chambers there and are back before the end of this session or before a new session is called, once they are inside, the House is allowed to lock those doors, keep them inside until they take a vote. And so it's going to be interesting to see how all of that plays out, or if it does at all.
Wow, yeah, this is going to be something that we'll be watching closely, and we want more updates from you, Jay. So thanks a lot for your insight this morning.
Thanks, Chesley.
All right. Folks, we got plenty more stories for you coming up. This is The Take on 11 Live Plus and the ATL. We're back right after this. Welcome back to the show. The state says nearly 8,600 eligible families have applied for the Georgia Promise Scholarship. The scholarship gives up to $6,500 to families whose children would otherwise attend low-performing public schools. The money can be used for private school education, tutoring, or homeschooling. All right, joining me now to talk more about this is Christopher Green. He's the president of the Georgia Student Finance Commission. Welcome to the show, Christopher.
Good morning, Chesley. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem at all. Tell us where these students who are applying for the scholarship, where are they?
So the Georgia Promise Scholarship, a brand new school choice option for our state, and students from all across Georgia are signing up to participate.
Mm-hmm. Do you see more from a certain school district than others?
Yes, sir. I think as we would expect, there's certainly a high concentration in some of our metro areas. But with the rollout of a brand new program, I think students across the state are learning more, and I anticipate new participants to grow every day.
Talk to us about who's eligible. How describe the eligibility of a family, so those that can apply.
Yes, sir. So one of the unique features of Georgia's program is that students need to have tried a public school for 2 semesters, and they have to be zoned to attend one of the bottom 25% of performing schools as determined by a list produced annually by the Office of Student Achievement. So the Promise Scholarship is for a family. Some of the examples that parents give me, maybe a student has an issue with bullying, or maybe they're neurodivergent. And so if a family is looking for another option, the Georgia Promise Scholarship could be a great option for one of these families.
Yeah. Okay, so your office says the majority of students plan to use the money to attend private school. Now, according to the Education Data Initiative, the average tuition for a private school in Georgia is nearly $12,000. So the money that you would provide covers a little bit over half of that cost. How do families bridge the gap there?
Sure. So for the initial year of this program, the award amount is $6,500. That's going to be dispersed to families over 4 quarterly allotments. And then it's really up to the relationship between the students and the families and the eligible private schools for how and on what time schedule that money is transmitted. One of the unique features of the Promise Scholarship is that all of this is occurring in a secure marketplace. So no dollars go directly to the citizen. It's all deposited into an education savings account in the secure portal, and then families tell us where they'd like to direct those funds, whether it's a private school, maybe home study curriculum, or even other qualifying expenses like tutoring services from a certified educator.
All right, so my math is not great, so rescue me if I'm wrong here, but I do know the state lawmakers approved about $140,000 in funded scholarships. That's enough for about 21,000 families there. You got 86 eligible families that applied, so how do you make that the right choices there, or how do you decide who gets what?
I think we're all very excited to see the initial appetite for this new program. Lawmakers were very clear that they wanted to fully fund this program to make sure that students and families knew that it was available. And again, we've only had 2 of 4 application windows this year. So I anticipate additional students signing up later this fall, and then participation to continue to grow.
Yeah. You think more families will apply in the future, obviously, as this gets out?
Yes, sir. In visiting with students and families that I've spoken to, I think as we get going here in this semester at school, if people get into the semester and they say, hey, this really isn't working for me, the Georgia Promise Scholarship could be a great option for those families.
Gotcha. How does a family that's watching right now figure out if they're eligible?
We would encourage anyone who's wanting to learn more to visit our website. That's mygeorgiapromise.org. On that website, even if we're not in an application period, we have a great pre-screening tool, totally free, only takes a matter of seconds. So a family can go through some questions and determine if they might be eligible, and then they can start making those decisions with their families about could Georgia Promise be a good option for us.
What does success look like with this, Chris? How do you deem it being a successful program?
I think just more than anything, wanting to hear feedback from families. Because of the Georgia Promise Scholarship, we got an opportunity to try something new for our family, and it's made a tremendous difference in the life of our student. And I think that's when we'll know this program was a success.
I think a lot of people will likely try to apply. I mean, it sounds like a pretty good program. And you said this is the first year, right? So this will be the litmus test, right, going into the first year.
Yes, sir. The first year, I hope you'll invite me back and we can report on the initial success after this first year.
Consider it done, my friend. We'll book it right after we finish here.
Thank you, Chesley.
All right, thanks a lot. Chris Green, appreciate you being on the show with us today. All right, folks, are you like me and you're worried about money? Many people are. Coming up on the show, we're going to talk about whether that's a valid concern for us to have. You're watching The Take, and we're back right after this. Well, it's been soggy the last couple of days, and today is no different. Well, rain continues, folks, and that rain will be off and on as we head through at least early afternoon. I think by about 2 or 3 o'clock, things will begin to taper off a little bit. We'll be left with the clouds, of course, and drizzle will be around. Only 75 degrees for a high temperature today. Grab your jacket, your umbrella, your boots, galoshes, whatever you need to do to stay dry for today. Yeah. Hopefully things will change for us as we head toward the middle of the week. We'll talk more about the forecast in just a few. All right, a new survey shows Americans are spending a lot of time thinking about money. Yeah, about 4 hours per day on average. All that worrying, changing spending habits, of course. Let's welcome back to the show Morgan Ward, consumer expert and good friend of the show. Morgan, how you doing today?
Great, how are you? Thank you.
Doing pretty good. When we say Americans are worried about their money, what does that actually mean?
It means that people are spending a lot of time thinking about their financial concerns. I saw one article that says people are spending up to 4 hours a day thinking about what they're worried about and thinking about the uncertainty in their future. So that's like having a part-time job worrying about money at this point.
Wow, something that's not making them money, right?
Not making money at all.
Are there specific things that they're worried about as far as the money goes?
Yeah, I mean, there's a specific reason. So we have inflation, we have lack of savings, there's increasing debt, high interest rates, there's uncertainty about jobs, and then there's just the constant change. It's really hard to decide what to do with your money when you are unsure of how to anticipate your future, how much money you'll have, if you'll have a job, and that kind of thing. So there's lots of reasons that people are worrying about this, and a lot of people feel very alone in those concerns as well.
Yeah, all valid concerns and reasons to be worried. Survey says that a lot of young people are worried about money. Why do you think that is?
I think that young people have the least time in the job market and oftentimes are the last people to get hired. So they have even more concerns, and also they oftentimes have less backup spending money that they've stored for the future, right? So the rainy day fund is not there for a lot of the youngest people in our economy.
Seems like a lot of them are staying home, so they wouldn't have to worry too much about their money. They're worried about my money, right?
True.
Well, it's changing our spending habits, obviously. Why does worrying make us a little bit more frugal? Why is that the case?
Yeah, we have a bunch of reasons. One is that when you're spending so much emotional energy worrying, it's harder to engage in self-control. So you've spent so much energy thinking about your concerns that it's harder to stop yourself when you want to buy. And sometimes you just want to reward yourself, just feel a little bit better. So that often encourages us to buy more. We've talked about it before, but people do this doom spending, which is kind of like buying your stuff to soothe or to satisfy, to help you feel less bad. And then sometimes it's stuff like, you just don't make purchases you need to make. You put them on a credit card because you're not sure if you can pay them off right now, or you want to stay kind of liquid. So there's all of these things that also influence what we're doing with our money when we're worried about money.
Yeah, and well, we continue to worry about it. Is there other ways that it's impacting our spending habits?
Yeah, we also are just, buying stuff that is more about making us feel better rather than buying stuff that we need, because we're not sure if we're going to have money for a while. So why not reward yourself when you do? So sometimes that leads to less kind of smart decisions with what we allocate our limited funds towards.
Yeah. There's another report that says more people are turning to subscription services to get their monthly essentials. What are some of those common subscription services, and why are people buying them now?
Well, there's everything from, our things that we need every month, so food or water kinds of stuff that comes every month, but there's also kind of a self-gifting thing going on. So people are buying makeup or desserts. A lot of people are buying stuff for their pets, which we've talked about before. So, once a week, once a month, Fido gets a new toy or bone or something like that. So they're kind of these little built-in gifts that we can expect to get and look forward to, especially when we're having all of these other financial worries. We can expect exactly how much it's going to cost, and we don't have to make that decision every month. We've already made and predetermined that we're going to buy it. So now it's the money part is gone, the spending part is gone, and we just wait for the gift to come to us. So subscriptions are just on the rise, and they continue to be on the rise.
Gotcha. All right, Morgan Ward, if you need somebody to worry about your money, I'll do it for you. Thanks so much for joining us and being with us today.
Thank you so much.
All right. All right, violence in the city has caused many to get proactive. We're going to talk to one group trying to make a difference. Yep. And pop star Justin Timberlake, recently diagnosed with Lyme disease. We're going to find out more about that illness coming up. Stay right there. All right, welcome back to the show. There's a new effort to support families in crisis after experiencing a stretch of gun violence nearly 2 weeks ago. Atlanta rapper Quevo, along with the Rocket Foundation, launched an emergency therapy fund after 49 people were shot in the city from July 24th to the 28th. Joining me now is Greg Jackson. He's the president of the Rocket Foundation. And Greg, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We know that shootings and crimes like these have a huge impact on the community. I understand 2 victims had close ties to the Rocket Foundation?
Yeah, one participant, one of the folks who were lost in these shootings was a participant of our Rocket Camp in 2024, and another was a staffer for the Offenders Alumni Association, which is one of the grantees of the Rocket Foundation and someone that we've supported and worked with for a few years now, sadly.
Wow. What is your first thought when you heard about the number of people who were shot in the course of a weekend?
It's devastating, and we know that gun violence traumatizes families and communities, and even those who survived are going to deal with a lifetime of trauma. Personally, I'm a survivor of gun violence, and I was shot 12 years ago, and I'm still feeling the impacts of that. And unfortunately, so many families in Atlanta are going through that, and it's devastating. And it's also devastating in a time where we're seeing violence go down in Atlanta. We're seeing historic reductions throughout the city and throughout the entire United States, with a 20% reduction this year. But these devastating moments don't feel any better for those families.
Yeah, we heard earlier on the show from City Councilmember Bakhtiari. She was talking about what Atlanta's going to do to try to stop the violence. Do you think there's more that needs to be done, or are we doing enough?
Definitely need to do more. This is one of the few cities in the country that has not invested in community-based strategies to prevent and intervene violence. We have places like Baltimore that are seeing historic lows in violence, but that's a result of them investing in community violence intervention programs and hospital-based violence intervention programs and strengthening abilities to heal and help families and communities recover. And Atlanta has a long ways to go there. The investments there are fairly low for a city of that size. But that's why, as a Rocket Foundation, we stand in solidarity with the community-based organizations. We created this emergency trauma fund to help fill some of the gap and fund some of the therapeutic services for those who have been impacted. And our Spark grants are going directly to the community-based groups, knowing how important of a role they play to prevent violence. And so I hope that, in partnership with the city, that we can invest more in violence prevention, as so many other cities have done, because we know that our lives are critical to save.
Yeah, you mentioned your foundation. Go with me in detail about how you guys are doing that. How are you helping out these families?
So the Rocket Foundation was created by Quevo and Takeoff's family after the tragic death of Takeoff in 2023. Takeoff was lost really from an act of community violence, and Quevo wanted to meet that pain with purpose and help change things. And so we launched the foundation then. Since then, we've invested funding into 10 different community-based organizations. We've had 2 Rocket Summits. Our first one welcomed Vice President Kamala Harris to talk about this issue and how important this is. Our most recent one featured the All the Smoke podcast team, and we did a live filming at the summit. We also did a Mother's Day event honoring mothers who have lost their children to gun violence and showing our love and care for them in this really dark time. And in the future, we're continuing to build a coalition of influencers and artists and survivors across the country, just like Quevo and Takeoff's family, that are stepping up to take action on this issue and help change the narrative about how we can respond to these tragic moments. And so we're excited to be a part of this. Quevo has been to the White House to meet with the vice president. He was in Congress, met with over 20 members of Congress to talk about this issue. And so we're really just bringing culture to policy and really pushing forward to see some change.
Yeah, Greg, I'm sure you're not just looking for the big names to get involved. Some might be watching today that may want to donate or want to help you out. How do they get involved?
Yeah, you can go to rocket-foundation.org. And you can get involved with us, but you also can support our grantees. We have local groups like Hope Hustlers, Cure Violence, Offenders Alumni, Girasol Wellness, Mothers Against Gang Violence, and so many other that are community-based, that were born and founded in Atlanta. And those are our partners that we are arm in arm with every day. And so we encourage you to volunteer with them. But also, if you feel like donating to the Emergency Trauma Fund, you can go to rocket-foundation.org. Or find us on social media.
All right, Greg Jackson, thanks for joining us, and appreciate what you're doing for our community, man.
Thank you, sir.
All right, take care. All right, folks, again, a soggy day. You can see that rain that's out there. This is over into Athens area, right there on the campus of the University of Georgia, and it's soggy. Good news that the students aren't back just yet, but they will be returning. Certainly the professors are back, and they have to deal with that rain out there for this morning, and this will last right on through the afternoon as well. We'll have some spotty showers around. At times it will turn heavy. There is a flood risk out today. We have a flood watch that's going to last until 8 o'clock, and we have an 11Alive weather impact alert that's going to last until tonight as well. And so be on the lookout, folks, for any flooding that happens to take place in your area. Of course, this is a nuisance for a lot of us to get around, but you can battle it. Take that 11Alive umbrella with you wherever you go. All right, Justin Timberlake has been battling some health issues. In fact, the pop star says he was recently diagnosed with Lyme disease while on his world tour. In fact, this is having a lot of impact on a lot of big names. Justin Timberlake, just to name one other who has been suffering from the same disease. So what do we need to know about Lyme disease? Joining me now is medical contributor Dr. Paoli, who is with us and becoming a regular on the show. Thanks for joining us. First of all, tell us, what is Lyme disease?
So good morning, Chesley. So Lyme disease is an infection caused by a bacteria called Borrelia burgdorferi, and it's basically transmitted through deer ticks. So think about going camping out in the woods and you get a deer tick that attaches to you, get this infection. And it has sort of 3 phases. In the first phase, which usually happens a couple of days to about a month after, you get like a flu-like illness. But what's classic about Lyme disease is you get this bullseye rash. So a rash that looks red with central clearing, but you can get swollen lymph nodes, you can get fevers, you can get chills, muscle aches. So many of us might even blow that off as just having the flu, but it's that classic rash that really tips us off. Some people go on to the second stage where it starts to have neurological symptoms like Bell's palsy. You have paralysis of the facial muscle. You can have numbness or tingling. You can even have meningitis type symptoms like stiff neck and headache. And rarely do people progress to sort of the third stage, which is if it's not treated early on, then you can start to have problems with the heart, chronic neurological problems, and joint aches or pains.
All right. So you said it was camping typically, right? Where you're out in the woods and there's a lot of ticks out there. We don't know whether Justin Timberlake was out in the woods. He's saying it was after his tour. Is this a common thing, even if you're not in the woods, for this to happen?
So I would imagine that Justin is probably describing more of the chronic phases of Lyme. So there is a phenomena called chronic Lyme or long Lyme, almost like long COVID is how I want you to think about it, where the infection is cleared, but you have persistent symptoms afterwards. And we're not sure if it's inflammation that causes it or what exactly causes those persistent symptoms. But for a lot of young people that have had an infection, cleared the infection, may or may not have been treated. It's more common if it's not treated. They end up having long-term symptoms like brain fog, excess fatigue, neurological symptoms, very much like long COVID that could potentially interfere. So it's hard to speculate exactly what phase Justin is in. There's obviously a situation where you could have involvement of the heart muscle as well. Rarely can you die from Lyme disease, but when it involves the heart muscle, that's something called heart block that can occur as a result of Lyme. You could need a pacemaker or what have you. Again, it doesn't seem like those are the symptoms he's having, but it could potentially be that long Lyme or chronic Lyme that he's experiencing.
Is there a way for us to prevent it?
There is. And so, if there's no vaccine for humans, thankfully there is a vaccine for dogs. So if you're taking your dog camping or out in the woods in areas where there's a lot of Lyme disease, you may want to talk to the vet about getting vaccinated. But for us humans, we have to do a few things. First is to wear those mosquito repellents and the, tick repellents that have DEET in them. So 20 to 30% DEET. Wear long sleeves. Now the tick has to attach for 24 to 48 hours to actually transmit the infection. And the tick bite is usually not painful. So people don't know that they've been bitten by a tick. So when you come in from outside, it's really important to do a tick check, which is to take a magnifying glass, because they're about the size of a poppy seed, and look very closely and make sure there's no ticks attached, because if you pull it off with tweezers, you can essentially interrupt the process of transmission of the infection. And then, of course, if you do get an infection or you get a tick bite and then you have some symptoms right afterwards, it's really important to go see the doctor, because antibiotics can treat that early, and most people will recover completely after antibiotics.
All right, Doc, really appreciate all the insight on that. We'll see you again soon, okay?
Thank you, Chesley.
All right, take care. All right, up next, we got CNN's Maribel Aber. She's going to join us with the latest from the stock market in New York City. We're back right after this. All right, welcome back to the show. The U.S. is bringing in new money from tariffs, but a new report shows consumers are still facing economic stress. CNN's Maribel Aber joins us now from the NASDAQ market site in New York. Good morning to you, Maribel. The U.S. collected new record monthly tariff revenues in July, but what can you tell us about that?
Okay, Chesley, the U.S. collected actually more than $29 billion in tariff revenue in July. That was the highest monthly total so far this year, and revenue from tariffs has been growing steadily this year. It was $17.4 billion in April. That jumped to $23.9 billion in May and then hit $28 billion in June. This big jump in July pushed the total tariff revenue collected this year to more than $152 billion, according to the Treasury Department. Trump administration officials have said tariffs could generate more than $300 billion in revenue for the federal government. This tariff revenue is collected by the U.S. from American businesses, but in some cases, companies will pass along the fees in the form of higher prices for consumers. Chesley, more tariffs equal more revenue, but also more pressure for businesses and buyers.
Yeah, we talked about the Americans still facing stress. One particular area that we're concerned about is groceries, right?
The cost of groceries has been stressing you out. You're not alone. A new poll shows the majority of American adults are worried about prices in the supermarket. 53% of those surveyed said the cost of groceries was a major source of stress in their lives. Another 33% said the prices were a minor source of stress, according to the poll from the Associated Press. The next biggest stressor, the cost of housing, 47% described that, Chesley, as a major source of stress.
Wow. American Eagle's actress Sydney Sweeney getting a lot of attention these days, and now President Trump is getting involved in it?
Okay, American Eagle Outfitters shares got a boost yesterday from President Trump. Let's talk about it. The stock soared more than 23% after again Trump weighed in on the Sydney Sweeney Has Great Jeans ad campaign. In a social media post, Trump called the Great Jeans ad the, quote, hottest ad out there. He said the ad has led to American Eagle jeans, quote, flying off the shelves. But even with yesterday's gains, the stock is down 21% on the year. The company lost $85 million in its most recent quarter as sales fell. Chesley, remember, always do your research. Consult with a financial professional. Meme stocks, ride on momentum, and message boards, think roller coaster. Fundamental stocks, ride numbers.
Will do. All right, so a big home goods retailer is closing some of its stores. What's going on with At Home?
At Home is closing additional locations after filing for bankruptcy. The home furnishings retailer will close another 6 stores. That makes 30 locations in all that are closing. At Home locations in New Jersey, Indiana, and Illinois are among those that will now be shut down. Already At Home stores in Florida, Virginia, Illinois were among those scheduled to be closed. At Home filed for bankruptcy in June, citing everything from inflation to tariffs, supply chain issues. They're just one of the many chains that have struggled in recent years. Others include Big Lots, Joann Fabrics, and Kohl's. Chesley, I remember At Home helped me outfit my first year dorm. Now college kids are looking at TikTok and Target, even resale apps.
Wow. Yeah, it's one of my favorite stores as well. Even if I just get a chance to go around and just look for ideas, you know? I don't want them to close.
Yeah.
All right. Maribel, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. All right, folks, we've had a lot of rain lately, and it's not uncommon for us to have drought-like conditions, especially around the summertime. We're going to discuss the importance of water conservation when we return. Stay right there. We've had some decent amounts of rain so far, but the truth is Georgia is prone to droughts in the summertime, and using too much water can hurt our environment and your bank account. Joining me now is Justine Swartz with the Atlanta Regional Commission. Justine, why is water? Explain to us what, first of all, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Explain to us why water conservation is so critical here in Atlanta.
Well, I know that it's been a little cool the last 2 or 3 days, and we've had some rain, but if you just think back to last week, it was really hot and had been dry for a while. So this time of year, it's really critical to think about the amount of water we're using because we could head into some really dry conditions for the rest of the summer.
Yeah, we talked about how overwatering can hurt our finances. Explain that.
Yeah, so in Metro Atlanta, we kind of do things a little bit differently than some other places in the country. We have what's called tiered pricing or conservation pricing for our water bills. So what that means is the more water you use, the more you pay per unit. And so it's more effective for your pocketbook, for your water bill, if you use less water.
Mm-hmm. How can watering our yards and gardens not put stress on the water system or our wallets?
Well, we have a law in Georgia, but it's also best practice. We shouldn't water before 10 a.m. or after 10 a.m. or before 4 p.m., those hottest parts of the day. Make sure you're watering early in the morning or in the evening. That will prevent evaporation. It means that the more water will go to your plants actually will water your plants, so it's more effective.
All right, so let me ask you this. Now, I noticed that we mentioned obviously watering our lawns, that becomes critical to us, but what about these, a lot of car washes are popping up in our area lately. Have you noticed that?
I think that's a great question. A lot of car washes actually recycle their water and reuse it through their systems or dispose of it properly through our sewer system. So I find car washes to be much more water efficient than washing at home. If you think about it, when you're washing your car at home, you're washing usually on your driveway or your street, and that's just going kind of running off, not being used directly for anything else. So I actually would recommend using a car wash typically.
All right, well, we're already in the summer now. What are we looking toward next year?
Oh man, I think we're looking pretty good this year. Our rainfall is on average. We get about average of 50 inches of rain in Atlanta every year, and we look pretty good. I always like to tell people we get more rain than Seattle. They get rain all the time, but we get a lot of heavy rain. So we're heading into like hurricane season and some other heavy rains, and sometimes we'll see a lot of rain towards the end of winter into spring. But right now our water outlook looks great. Our lakes are full. Our stream flows are good, and our lawn and garden moisture index, which is how wet the ground is, that looks really good right now too from the rain we've had the last few days.
Got it. All right, Justine, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for the insight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Another look at our forecast when we return, plus my final take. Stay right there. Right now, severe weather is impacting tens of millions across the U.S., from wildfires burning out west to poor air quality alerts in the Northeast and in the South, talking about extreme heat. NBC's Tom Yamas has more.
Out west, dozens of wildfires burning out of control. The Gifford Fire in Santa Barbara County has burned more than 60,000 acres, forcing emergency evacuations, even producing a smoke tornado. This ominous photo showing a scorched section of the Los Padres National Forest today. In Arizona, firefighters continue battling the Dragon Bravo fire near the north rim of the Grand Canyon. 1 month after the fire started, that blaze is now the largest in the continental U.S., burning more than 123,000 acres. Meanwhile, the smoke from hundreds of Canada wildfires triggering air quality alerts in more than a dozen states today, from the Great Lakes to New England.
I can't breathe. I'm dying, and I need to see blue sky.
Really just relentless smoke plaguing the skies.
Thick haze visible in cities like Boston. And in the South, people are sweating it out as excessive heat is gripping parts of Florida. In places like Miami, you have to stay under the shade even at the beach because there's a heat advisory in effect. So even though the temperatures are in the 90s, the feels like is about 109. That means even if you get in the water, it's still going to be hot. Describe to me what it feels like when this kind of heat hits you.
It feels like an oven. Like when you open the oven and it just all hits you at once in the face, that's exactly how it feels. You can't really be out in the sun for like more than like 20 minutes at a time.
And there's no sign of cooling off. Forecasters say heat records could be broken in the Southwest this week.
Wow, yeah. A lot of us dealing with a lot of that. All right, our forecast, we've been dealing with the rain, the wet weather, which could lead to flooding, folks, which is why we have 11Alive weather impact alert. 75 degrees for the afternoon high, like that, a break from those 90s, right? But we have to deal with that nuisance rain that's out there. Some of it could be on the heavier side, so be on the lookout. That will start to taper off by Wednesday. More spotty showers will be around. I think by the afternoon, even the clouds will start to break up. We'll get some sunshine back in. We're looking at 80 for the afternoon high temperature, and they'll stay in those 80s as we head through Thursday and Friday. And then by Saturday, Sunday, you'll notice those temperatures going up. 87 degrees for the high on Sunday, 87 again on Monday. We'll have a 30 to 40% chance for some afternoon scattered thunderstorms. Back to that summer type pattern, in other words, is what we'll get to by the time we get to Thursday. So we just have to deal with this rain until it starts to let up on us, folks. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. And again, make sure that you're watching for any flooding. If you have a pond in your backyard or you live near a stream or river, they will start to swell their banks. Flooding takes some time, folks. We'll have that watch lasting until tonight, but it's still, we're talking about runoff. Where does all that rain go? It has to run along the land, and it starts to fill some of our waterways, and then that start to back up on you a little bit. So if you live near some of those spots, you definitely need to be on the lookout. And of course, you know those flood-prone spots in the city that flood all the time, and so we'll need to be on the lookout for that. All right, time for my final take, folks, and I must admit that I do not drink coffee, but I know a lot of you out there just can't live without the stuff, especially when we talk about the Starbucks brand. And now some of your favorite spots could be going away. Well, according to Starbucks CEO, they announced the franchise will be doing away with those pickup-only site models by the year 2026. They were meant to serve people, simplify the way that you pick up your coffee runs. You make a mobile order and you go right there, you pick it up and you move right on your way. But the company has found that format is overly transactional and lacks that human warmth connection that defines their brand. So I'm saying 2 thumbs up to Starbucks for recognizing that. I get overly concerned when we talk about a lot of products and apps that come out based on convenience and not social interaction. We're losing that, folks. When you pick up your coffee, you want to talk to somebody, say, how you doing today? Or just have like a quick conversation. We're losing a lot of that when it comes to these products, folks. So thumbs up to Starbucks and other brands out there that recognize that we need one another in order to survive. We need each other, believe it or not. That's all we got for you today, folks. Be sure to encourage someone, especially with all this rain out there. Take care and talk to somebody. Encourage them today. We need more of that. Enjoy today.